let's get into the giant mailbag.
What crazy thing did City do this week?
It's time for Mattress running the numbers. Ready for the main event?
The main event.
Frequent Miler on the air starts now. Today's main event, the Travel Hackers Toolkit. We have all kinds of tools that we use for building up our points and miles war chest and for using the points and miles effectively. And so we're going to get into what are our favorites, which ones do we turn to time and again because they really deliver the value that we need to make the most, actually earn the most points and miles and make the most of them once we have them. So that's what we're doing today for the main event. But first, of course, we have the giant mailbag. Today's giant mail comes from a few people. These are comments in response to my post called Fixing a Failed Platinum Triple Dip. In that post, I talked about how I had messed up. I had intended to cancel my Amex Business Platinum card in January before it was too late. And what too late is in Amex world is that once the annual fee posts, you have 30 days from the date that it shows up on your screen there when you log in, 30 days from then to cancel, and you get the full money back for that annual fee. If you wait 31 days, they're going to charge you the full annual fee. And if you cancel then, you get nothing back. So in that post, I talked about how I had tried to get my airline fee credits, the $200 in airline fee credits in January and the $200 in Dell credits in January before canceling. And I just messed up. Like I started the whole process too late because I didn't even get to it till I got back from New Zealand. And then I waited about 4 or 5 days, I think it was, until the credits posted. And by then it was past the 30 days. So that's what my post was about. And the way I handled it is I downgraded to a $95 business green card. And that does work. Like, so they prorated a refund of my $695 annual fee of my business platinum and then charged me a prorated annual fee around $85, something like that, for the business green card. But I learned some great things from commenters. So first of all, David said, I canceled a consumer platinum before my Saks credit posted, and months later I received a check for the credit. So he's pointing out maybe you don't have to wait until the credits actually post. Like, so if you spend your airline fee credits, you spend your Dell credits, or with a personal card, you spend your Saks credit, for example, you don't have to wait. You could go ahead and cancel. And then AC said the same thing, but with their business platinum card. AC said, I had the same with my Dell credit on the business platinum. I got the credit after I canceled the card. So that's great to know. Had I known these things before, I could have just canceled after making the charges and been good. Then I learned one other thing. So I thought I was stuck with my business green card that I don't have any use for. But RabMD says, once you downgrade an Amex card, that restarts the 30-day annual fee refund clock as well. So, so RabMD's point is that I could now, as long as it's within 30 days of when I did the downgrade, I could cancel that the business green card, and I should get back the $85-ish that I was charged as a prorated annual fee. So I don't know if I don't know yet that I'll do that because I might wait to see if there's a good upgrade offer back to the business platinum or to a business gold. But cool. I love this that I can post about something I did and then learn all kinds of things from the readers.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, there's so many things out there to know. It's impossible to know everything. And those were some fantastic tips. You know, I'd be a little bit nervous about pulling that move too many times where you downgrade and then cancel. Like I wouldn't want to do that again and again. I feel like I don't obviously know because this is new to me that that's even possible to do. But it seems like the kind of thing that would eventually draw the pop-up prison, right? Like it'd get you, I don't know, a month or a year.
It's certainly possible.
Eventually, I mean, you do it once, I'm sure, probably no big deal, but a bunch of times.
But by the pop-up prison, of course, Nick's talking about where when Amex decides they don't like you, when you go to apply for a new credit card from them, they'll a pop-up will say that you're not qualified for the welcome bonus for this card, and you could still apply, but you're not going to get the bonus. And so various things like just signing up for cards and canceling them after you get the bonus without spending a lot on Amex cards are known to cause you to get into what we've called pop-up prison. So, yeah, I guess it's possible that could lead to pop-up prison too. I don't know, but anyway.
All right, interesting though.
Great info.
Great info. Yeah, very, very good info. So thank you for that. Actually, I was in the same boat. I had a very similar situation where I let it go just a little bit too long, and my plan was that I would downgrade for the prorated fees. So glad to hear that all worked out for you, and to learn some good tips about the process. So thank you very much, everybody. Good stuff there. All right. So that brings us, I think, next to what crazy thing. And this week we have a what crazy thing double header. So let's start out with what crazy thing did Capital One do this week?
Yeah. Tell me about this. Capital One has been sending out tax forms. What's going on there?
Yeah, so they've been sending out 1099s, which if you refer people to cards, you're probably at least somewhat familiar with, because most of the issuers, in fact, I think all of the major issuers these days, send a 1099 for points earned from referrals. Now, to be clear, you don't get a 1099 for points earned from purchases on your credit card or from the welcome bonus on your credit card. Those things are considered rebates, spending rebates rather than income. So they do send 1099s, though, for referrals, because that's different. And I guess, from their perspective, you're kind of working for them in sharing the product with other people and getting them to sign up for it. So they've determined that ought to be 1099. So if you've had more than, say, $600 worth of referrals, or even with some issuers, I think even less, you may get a 1099 form. So you'll have to file that with your taxes as income. The crazy thing, though, is that Capital One has sent out 1099s with really weird numbers, like really strange amounts. It took me forever because it was not an even dollar amount, which is the weirdest thing, because referrals are always even numbers of points, and everybody else seems to value the points at a very simple, like penny a point type of a valuation. Right. And when I say everybody else, Amex and Chase, but with Capital One, it wasn't seeming like that, because, like, I don't know, the one we received ended in 73 cents. I was like, where did they get 73 cents from? And then we started getting more and more reports from readers in our Frequent Miler Insiders group of just weird amounts that didn't seem to jive with what they had, they had actually referred, or the points they'd earned. Now, I don't know that this tidbit is going to apply to everybody, but the crazy thing is that Dave Grossman at Miles Talk eventually got a full breakdown, and it's been really tough. People have been trying to get word from Capital One in terms of why they got a 1099, or what all how the formula was made to decide how much income. And nobody at Capital One has been answering these questions. Somehow Dave got a breakdown from Capital One, and he found that in addition to cash back referrals being valued at straight cash, the points earned from venture card referrals or Venture X or Spark Miles referrals are being valued at just over a penny a piece. And when I say just over, I mean 1.0000023 or something really strange like that, where it's just over a penny a point. So it turns out, on every couple $100, it's like 73 cents. So that's where my 73 cents came from on a 25,000 point Capital One referral. So I got $250.73 worth of income.
Yeah. So just hold on a minute. So when they canceled my venture card, and I had something like 70,000 points at that time, and they gave me $350. That was valuing it only at half a cent per point.
Right.
And yet what they're doing is they're turning around and telling the IRS that the points are worth
1.00029 or 3 or 6 or something. Yeah, I know. It makes no sense at all. Like, I have no idea why they determined, or how they determined, that points are worth more than a penny, because you can only use those points to erase charges at 1 cent per point, right? Obviously, you can transfer to partners and get more value, but I've just never heard of anybody else valuing the points more than a penny each. But whatever, ridiculous. It turns out to be 73 cents on a 25,000 point referral. So I'm not going to lose too much sleep over whatever percentage of 73 cents I end up having to pay to the IRS. What's crazier and still like, just kind of weird and wacky, is that he found that they were also including the reimbursement for the global entry fee as income. So if you paid for global entry, you applied for global entry and you paid the $100 because the Capital One Venture X card reimburses that, well, they included that as income. What?
What's
Huh?
so that is the most clear cut. It's just a rebate from spend that you could
Right.
get, right? You have to spend that money
yes,
and it gets
yes.
rebated.
Right.
There's no justification for that at all. I mean, first of all, there's no justification for them to value their miles at more than a half cent each unless they're going to go back in time
Right.
and give me the right amount. But
Right.
but this is much more egregious. I mean, how could
what
they do
world
that?
are they
That doesn't
living? I
make
have
any
no
sense.
idea. No, it doesn't make any sense at all. And it really devalues that benefit on the card, right? Because I mean, it depends on what your tax rate is. But if you're somewhere in the 20s, let's say, percentage wise, you're talking about it's going to cost you more than $20 to get global entry with Capital One, whereas it'll cost you zero with anybody else that reimburses that type of thing.
Right.
So I just think that that's pretty crazy. And if you're in like a high tax bracket, my goodness, it just gets ridiculous in terms of the value of that. So yeah, and like you said, what world are they living in that's not a rebate? That doesn't make any sense.
That's so wrong. That's so wrong.
Yeah,
I hope we'll send out corrected forms or something, but then do people have to refile their taxes? I don't know what's going to happen.
It's probably not worth the headache. I mean, you
No.
can theoretically, you can even challenge the value of the points. I've seen a few from the wing talk about that before, where you could challenge their valuation of the 1.0029 or whatever. But is it worth the headache and drawing attention because you're disputing what your 1099 says? I mean, probably not for most people. I'd pay the $20.
I almost wish that they had given me a 1099 because I'd have like proof that the points are only worth a half cent each.
Oh, that would be great. That would be great. So if you want to make a case out there, if you earn a lot of referral points, you want to make a case, Greg's your guy. He'll be your expert witness saying the points are worth half a cent each. All right. So that's half of what crazy thing. The other half of what crazy thing is what crazy thing did Virgin Voyages do this week?
Virgin Voyages. So there's a deal out where you can get a big expensive cruise for only like, what is it? 80 to 100,000 points, something like that.
Right. So the cruises out of Miami are 80,000 points. Rather, I should take that back. The 5-night cruises out of Miami are 80,000 points, and the 7-night cruises or 8-night cruises, 1 7 and the others 8 out of Miami and Barcelona are 100,000 points. Now, this is only applicable on certain ships and only out of those 2 ports. So it and only supposed to be applicable to the 5-night Caribbean cruises or the 7-night Caribbean and 8-night Mediterranean, or the other way around. So the maximum an 8-night cruise, but that's a great deal because this is for a sea terrace room, so a balcony level room. And if you look up the balcony level rooms, the cost of them, you'll find that that's a very good deal for Virgin points. And Virgin Voyages, by the way, uses the Virgin Red program, which is the sort of unifying program. If you've got Virgin Atlantic miles, then they're also Virgin Red points. It's the Virgin points. It's one big currency that just kind of pulls from a single pot. So you can redeem for this in the app, in the Virgin Red app. You'll need to sign up for a Virgin Red account if you don't have a Virgin Red account. So if you've got a Virgin Atlantic Flying Club account, the airline, you'll also need a Virgin Red account, and you'll have to connect the 2 of them. You can find details for how to do that online. So this is a potentially very good redemption for those 5, 7, and 8-night cruises. But the crazy thing is that we had a report from a reader. And so I guess I should explain how this works. If you want to redeem for this, you redeem for it in the Virgin Red app. Now be careful if you've got Virgin points, because I remember hearing somebody say that it was very easy to hit the redeem button and there wasn't like a confirm that you really want to redeem it. So make sure you keep your thumb away from the redeem button unless you are ready to redeem for this. But once you redeem for it, they email you an access code. So it's sort of like a coupon code. And then you go on Virgin Voyages and you pick the cruise you want, you apply the coupon code, and it makes it $0. You don't pay anything in taxes, the entire thing. It's just 0 for the cruise. So So you get this access code, you plug it in for the cruise you want. Now, again, like I said, it's only supposed to go for certain lengths of cruises, up to 7 or 8 nights. However, we got a tip from a reader that access code is working for the 15-night transatlantic cruise from Barcelona. So I don't even know what the dates are on that, but if that piques your interest, 100,000 points for a 15-night transatlantic cruise in a balcony level room would be a fantastic deal with Virgin Voyages. I'm sure. I haven't cruised with Virgin Voyages. I imagine it'll be plenty nice to make that feel totally worth it. Now, before you run out there and redeem and say, hey, Nick told me I could get the 15-night cruise, remember that I said it's supposed to work on the 7 and 8-night cruises out of Miami and Barcelona. It just so happens that the access code seems to be working on the 15-night cruise. So don't shoot the messenger if in some way that doesn't work out. But we did, again, have a reader who confirmed that not only did it turn it down to 0, but they booked it and then called Virgin to confirm that, yeah, their booking is valid. So I think it'll work. And so I would, I potentially check that out if that's interesting to you.
Yeah. So just in case you're out there listening and say, well, I don't have any Virgin Atlantic points or Virgin Red points or whatever the heck you're talking about. Virgin points transfer from pretty much everyone. So if you have Chase Ultimate Rewards points, if you have Amex membership rewards points, you've got Citi thank you points, you've got Bilt points, you can transfer
Capital One points.
Yeah, Capital One miles, you could transfer them 1-to-1 to Virgin, and very soon, if not already, Citi is going to do a 30% transfer bonus for a little while to
that starts on the 19th.
Virgin Atlantic.
Yep.
So great. So you'd be able to transfer far fewer than the 80 to 100,000 that are needed in order to get what you need. But as Nick said, I would say my advice would be, unless you're willing to accept the
7 or 8
lesser
night
cruise, exactly. Right. I wouldn't do this. I would, do this if the 7 or 8 night cruise sounds good to you, but a 15 night sounds even better, then sure, swing for the fences, hope you could get that 15-day. And if it doesn't work out, you still get a cruise, you still get great value for your points. So
absolutely.
It's tempting even to me to, who is not interested in cruises, but it's like, well, this is a deal. I got to go for this.
Yeah. I mean, especially with the 30% transfer bonus, it really does look pretty interesting. Even just for the 7 and 8 night cruises, it looks pretty interesting. Now, keep in mind though, it's only valid on cruises through June 30th, 2023. So you can't book out farther than the end of June of this year. So that's the limitation. Now, we've seen them allow this a couple of times now. They had it last fall and then it went away for a bit, and now the redemptions came back again. So I wouldn't be surprised if those redemptions come back again or get extended. But at this point, anyway, you can only book for cruises through June 30th.
All right.
That brings us, I think, to Mattress Running the Numbers. This week's Mattress Running the Numbers, Greg talked to us about the new enhanced Hilton credit card offers. We got new offers out. Are they exciting? Are they interesting? Are they worth it?
Yeah, so the new Hilton offers, all of the Amex Hilton cards, except for the expensive Aspire card, have increased offers. So the business card, 165,000 points after $5,000 spend. This is a $95 card. So those are big numbers. You do have to keep in mind, though, that Hilton points don't tend to be worth as much as many other types of points. So just keep that in mind. The other $95 Hilton card, the Surpass card, that's the consumer version of it. You only get 150,000 points with that one. So that's 15,000 fewer points. But you also have less spend required. $3,000 spend will get you the 150,000 points. And the no fee card is up to 100,000 points after 2K spend. So those are the offers. They are better than usual. The question is, are they good enough to be worth going for? And
what do you think, Greg? I mean, are they? And if they are they all worth going for? Or is there one or two that piques your interest more?
Yeah. So here's the thing. Hilton points are worth, on average, around half a cent each for most awards that you book with them. Now you can do better. So you can book a 5-night stay, get the 5th night free. So right away there, you're doing better than half a cent per point. You can find some hotels that are kind of point priced for their for what they would cost in cash. Typically you see that at the high end, like Conrad Maldives that would go for 120,000 Hilton points versus, I don't know, $1,000 a night, something like that. So you can do much better, but it's not a slam dunk that you will. So unless you know what you're doing, I think you should think of these as like approximately half a cent to make the math easy. And so if you take 150,000 point sign up offer like the Surpass has, you could say, okay, that's if they were all worth a penny each, that would be $1,500. But at a half penny, that's worth $750. Is that a good sign up bonus? Yeah, I mean, 750, that's solid. It's not, amazing, but it's solid. And then you have the business platinum a little bit better. And the nice thing with the business platinum is
Not business platinum, the business Hilton card.
business. Oh, thank you. Yeah. The nice thing about the business Hilton card is that it's a business card and won't add to your credit report as a new account. And so, for example, Chase won't
hold it against you.
Won't deny you because you've signed up for more cards in 2 years than Chase likes. So that's an advantage of the business Hilton card, and of course the no fee card getting about $500 worth of value from a no fee card. That's actually on the high end of what you can expect from no fee cards and no fee personal cards. There are no fee business cards where you could do much better, but for personal cards, that's pretty good. So I'd say these are good, solid offers.
Yeah, I'd push even to say that they're a little bit better than good. I mean, I wouldn't call them excellent necessarily, but even a little bit better. And here's why. When you talked about how much the offers are worth, and you say, well, the Surpass about $750, the business card a little over $800, and the no fee card around $500. Those are all particularly good compared to the amount of spend they require. So that's another piece that I would mention with it. The $750 on the Surpass card, for instance, only requires $3,000 spend. Now, if you can do $6,000 spend, you could do better with an Inc. business card, the Inc. Business Unlimited or Inc. Business Cash. But otherwise, on $3K spend, that's very solid. Now, there are airline cards where perhaps if you're redeeming for premium cabin international travel, you can get even more value. So I don't want to overstate it. And that's why I say maybe a little bit better than good, because these are higher than average for the amount of spend they require, I would say. And the no fee card, I mean, $500 worth of travel on a no fee card is pretty good. And the thing about the no fee card is that there are frequently offers for upgrading to the other cards, or at least there have been in the past. So if you haven't had the no fee card before you're eligible for the welcome bonus, then, it might be worth picking up at a time when the offer is elevated so that you can hopefully down the road upgrade it to a Surpass or an Aspire if that's what you want down the road. But you wouldn't want to upgrade to a card you haven't had before because you'd want to get the new card member bonus on that card first before you upgrade to it. So I'm jumping a few steps ahead, but I think the business card is worth a look. Until these offers went up, I had forgotten that card also comes with a free night certificate after 15,000 spend in a calendar year. I knew that was true on the Surpass, but I'd forgotten that was true on the business card. Now, the Surpass has the U.S. supermarket bonus category, so that might be a little bit more useful if you're into manufactured spending for that free night certificate. However, the business card, like Greg said, wouldn't add to a 524 count, still gives you a shot at that 15K spend for the free night cert, and it comes with a few more points. So I think my pick right now would probably be the business card, but any of these could be an okay choice, and that's saying something because hotel cards usually aren't that great. So
I totally agree. I'm eyeing the business card myself. I might pick one up if I have any open. These are credit cards, and so Amex will let you have 5 or 6 credit cards open at any one time. You could have more of those charge cards, those pay over time, like the platinum and the gold and the green cards are charge cards, or Amex likes to call them pay over time cards. But for the credit cards, I'm thinking of the Hilton business card. One thing I do want to mention, if you're eyeing very high end stays, the regular offer for the Aspire card is still probably your best bet. So 150,000 points, and you get a free night certificate. this year, and you will also get another one when you renew next year. But so that free night certificate, this is where I said if you're eyeing high value hotels, because then you could use that free night certificate for one that would cost like 120,000 points. So that welcome bonus then is at least 2 nights at a place like that, which is pretty darn good.
Right. And if you value the other benefits, I mean, we've frequently talked before, and for anybody who's new, I guess it's worth mentioning that the Aspire card is one of the best deals on the market because it comes with $250 in annual airline fee credits and also $250 in annual resort credit at Hilton's. So if you like to stay at Hilton's and you can use those airline fee credits, which we maintain a post on ways to trigger the airline fee credits, and there's plenty of reasonably good ways to do that. So if you value those things, that card is sort of a no-brainer. So I would only be looking at these cards probably if you already have the Aspire, or if you're not somebody who values those high-end nights. Like, Greg said, if you you place more value on having a lot of points for many, many nights, then you may want the higher points and lower annual fee of these cards that we're talking about.
Yep.
All right. So that brings us, I think, we don't have an update for the challenge. That's not to say we haven't been working on it. We've been working feverishly on the challenge, but we don't have an update for that this week. Awards we booked this week, I think we're also going to skip over for today. I'll kind of talk a little bit about something I booked when we talk about the tools, but we don't need to dedicate a segment to that. So I think that means it's time for the main event.
Main event time, the Travel Hackers Toolkit. So we're going to get into what are the tools we actually use day to day. Because there are tons of tools that we use occasionally. We're just going to talk about the ones that are, front of mind, the ones we keep going back to. And I'm going to start with a category, which is, I don't even know it's a great category, but I'm going to call it managing points because I don't have a better name for it. And I'm starting with this whole blah 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 stuff because I almost forgot about this tool altogether when I was putting down the list, even though it's the tool that I probably rely on more than any other, and that's Award Wallet. So Award Wallet is where I keep track of almost all of my frequent flyer accounts, all my hotel accounts, and it not only tells me what my current point balances are. That's nice, but that's not actually all that essential. But more importantly, it tells me when points are about to expire, and it tells me when free night certificates are about to expire. And it's probably that second one that is really where this tool more than pays for itself, which is just letting me know, I have this Hyatt certificate is going to expire in a month or whatever, so that I can make sure to use it. And I don't know what I would do with that Award Wallet, especially too. I also manage the accounts of my wife and son, a lot of their frequent flyer accounts. So trying to keep track of everyone's accounts without a tool like this, I don't know what I would do.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to have spreadsheets and you'd have to keep updating them. It would be very time consuming. So it's a huge time saver. And that was something that stuck out at me as I thought about the tools we use a lot, because a lot of the tools that we use the most, when you talked at the beginning about how we're going to talk about tools for earning a lot of miles and for using them efficiently, I was thinking to myself, I didn't jump in to interrupt you, but I was thinking to myself that a lot of these tools I use because they save me a heck of a lot of time, and Award Wallet totally fits in that realm, because not only time but stress too, because I'd be more stressed about, am I forgetting something, is something about to expire, should I log into everything and check today because I can't remember, it's almost the end of the month, blah blah blah. And I don't have to worry about that with things that are tracked in Award Wallet. So
exactly,
totally
yeah. And my whole halting intro was because I originally was looking at this when I was cataloging the tools I use all the time, is looking at which ones do I use for earning points, and then which ones do I use for finding awards so that I can use my points. And so Award Wallet is neither of those, but it's still totally essential. So to me, and to you, it sounds like.
Yeah, no, I would forget. There's too much to remember. I would forget it.
No, if I'm remembering right, I think a show probably a couple of years ago, you said you didn't use Award Wallet. So I think you've.
No, I didn't have all of my accounts in there, and I probably still don't have quite all of them in there. But and I had some Avianca Life Miles that expired because I didn't have them in there, and I forgot that Avianca miles expire after 12 months of inactivity. It's like the shortest period of inactivity. It's so easy to keep them
Mhm.
alive with a transfer, but silly me, I let them expire forgetting about that. So yeah, I mean, the ward wallet would have saved me the points in that case. And so that's why I think it's an invaluable tool. If you're only going to manage one or two or three different programs, if you're like somebody who just wants to stick with your one or two known knowns or something, then you probably don't need a tool like this. But if you're going to manage a bunch of accounts, whether your own or a number of family members, I mean, this is just the most important one probably that we'll talk about
Yeah.
today.
Yeah. All right. Let's talk about the top tools that help us earn points and miles. And it feels like weird talking about our own website here, but it's completely true that when I'm looking at, I want to earn miles either for a new sign up bonus, or I want to earn, miles because I want to make sure I'm using the right credit card at the right store. I use our own website. So, our best offers page has all of the best offers. And, that's where I go when people ask me for recommendations for what cards should they get.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm going to go look at our own site. You could too, but that's what I'll do if I'm doing it for them. So yeah, I think our own website is indispensable.
It is, and I think it's worth mentioning a little bit about why. So, our best offers page lists the best credit card offers, and so on the one hand, what Greg already mentioned is that it shows you the best offers, so you're going to get the best offers. And when we say that, we mean the best publicly available offers on those cards, whether or not we earn an affiliate commission. So we've talked about this before, but it's worth it for anybody who joined us since the last time we mentioned it. There are situations where we have an affiliate link for a card, but we know that there's a different link that gives you more points. We don't show our affiliate link. We show the link that gives you more points. If we know that there's one that exists that's publicly available, so anybody can click through and find it, we make sure that that's there. So I know I can trust that the offers are going to be the best ones, right? That's part number one. But part number two that I use it for, that I find very helpful, is the way things are sorted. So if you look at any of the banks, if you go to like American Express or Citibank or Chase, the cards within those sections are sorted by first year value. And our first year value is all done as objectively as possible, with formulas valuing the free night certificates at a certain amount and valuing the points at our reasonable redemption values and determining the relative cost of earning those sign-up bonuses based on the spend you have to put in. There's a lot of math that happens in a spreadsheet. So it's not like we order that based on, okay, well, these are the cards that pay us the most commission, so we're going to put those at the top of the page. That's just not the way that it works on our best offers page. So it makes it very easy for me to compare offers, from card to card. And then we have like the top 10 airline cards and the top 10 hotel cards. And so those are separate pages that are linked to from our best offers page that are super easy to find. And then the last thing that I use it for very frequently is every time a reader writes in to ask me a question about application rules, I always end up going to the best offers page because I don't have them all memorized. And if you click on the name of any bank, you click on Citi, for instance, it'll take you to the top of the Citi section. And the very first thing is the application rules for Citibank. So it'll tell you how long you have to wait in between American Airlines cards to get the bonus again. It'll give you the phone number for reconsideration if you get declined and you want to call and plead your case to get the card anyway. So that best offers page has a number of different functions and uses that make it a tool that I use all the time. And so I wanted to mention those things too, because I think that that's an important component as to why that's in there for one of the tools for earning the most points.
Yep. All right. The next tool along similar lines that I use all the time is Travel Freely. Now, I might not use it so much if I was just dealing with my own credit card signups, but since I'm managing 3 people, I find Travel Freely essential. And what it does is it keeps track of all the cards we've signed up for. It lets me know at a glance where are we with the Chase 524 rule, which if you don't know what it is right now, don't worry about it. It's something that if you're signing up for lots of cards, you're going to learn about what that is. But it's not that easy to find out, other ways. And here it just shows you, it reminds you to finish meeting minimum spend requirements on new cards that you signed up for. It reminds you that your annual fee is coming up, so it's time, like my business platinum card, to consider canceling it, and so on. So it's basically it's designed to make it easier to manage the whole process of earning points and miles through credit card signups.
And if you do a lot of them, that can be really helpful because, like, for instance, this summer, I had my wife sign up for a U.S. Bank business card for a $500 cash back bonus because why not? And I got pulled away with other things and focusing on other card bonuses that came out and opportunities that came our way, and totally forgot about that card until just before the deadline for meeting the spend. And luckily it was a 6-month deadline on that card,
Oh,
so
nice.
I had plenty of time overall.
Yeah.
But if you don't have a tool like Travel Freely keeping track and you sign up for a lot of cards, something could fall by the wayside. Luckily I didn't miss that welcome bonus, and I don't think missed one that I can recall in a while. So ever, I don't think, at least apart from one that was intentional, I guess. But that's another story for another day. So Travel Freely can help you if you sign up for a lot of cards. Again, hard to remember everything, and that can be a good tool. So, all right,
Yeah.
Travel Freely. Yeah.
Yeah. I was just going to add one more thing. Kind of like what we were talking about with a Word wallet. It just takes some of the stress away of like, am I forgetting to meet minimum spend? Am I forgetting to cancel a card?
Which Greg experiences a
just
lot
helps with
because
these
elderly
things.
guys go through that.
That's right.
It happens.
It definitely does. Definitely does. All
All right.
right.
What's next for earning points?
So when trying to meet minimum spend requirements, there's a couple of tools. I don't know if tools is the right word here, but techniques that I use to spend money basically on credit cards so that I can meet those minimum spend requirements. One is it's a website called Kiva, and it's for making micro loans. And the idea is that there are people around the world that need loans to keep their small business going or whatever. And by donating money through this, it's not really donating, by loaning money through this, you are allowed to pay with a credit card. And when the loans pay back, you get your money back. You don't earn interest. It's not a money-making thing. You can lose some money, but the nice thing is I believe it's doing a lot of good. And there's a lot of debate about that, but I wrote a whole post about this as well, why I believe it's doing a lot of good. And so I like this as a way, if you can float the money. So it's going to take 6 months to a year or maybe more to get all your money back from any given loan. As long as you can float that money, then it's a way of doing good and earning, welcome bonuses at the same time.
Very good. Excellent. All right. So one that I use that I know you use also is paying taxes, because paying taxes is something you can do via credit card. There are a number of different official payment processors for the IRS that charge a fee of, do you know what the current fee is?
Just under 2%.
Yeah, just under 2. Yeah.
It always hovers around 1.87, 1.89. Sometimes it's been higher, but it's always been, you might as well just think of it as 2% because math's easier.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So 2%. So you're talking every $1,000 is going to cost you $20 to pay your taxes, and so that might be useful if you need that for earning a welcome bonus. Great example. My wife opened a business platinum card a couple of months ago. Minimum spending requirement on that card is $15,000. She just asked me last week, "Have we met the minimum spend requirement?" And I said, "No, we actually have a good bit to go yet on that." And she said, "Oh, well, how are we going to meet it?" And I said, "Well, don't worry, because we can make a tax payment before the deadline for meeting the welcome bonus and wipe out the whole thing." So that's, I think, a tool that I often keep in my back pocket. I said, let's just keep using the card so that we don't have to pay the fee on very much, of course. But that could be a great way to be able to meet minimum spending requirements, particularly on Amex cards where you may have a harder time with other things. Now, I say that particularly on Amex cards, we've had a couple of people that reported that for some reason they thought that their spending on Amex cards didn't count towards the minimum spending requirement. I've never experienced that myself. I've always had it count towards minimum spending. And a key point here that's worth mentioning is, I don't think, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think I've ever heard of anybody getting hit with a cash advance fee for paying taxes. It codes as a purchase, I think, on every credit card, as far as I know, right?
Yeah, there was a weird thing happening with PayPal at one point where I think there were cash advance fees going on, but that's been corrected. So that fact just shows you that it's not supposed to. Everyone acknowledges it's not supposed to. The IRS's website has a FAQ. It says it should count as a regular purchase. You should not get any cash advance fees or anything like that. Um, One thing to know is that if you're willing to give the government a loan, you can overpay your taxes and get the money back later. So that is not, I haven't heard of that leading to any adverse actions against anyone who's done that. And I think the government likes getting loans. So
They do, but it's worth mentioning that at least during the pandemic, some returns were slow in getting processed. So we
yeah.
did have a few readers report really long waits. So, consider that and consider how much you can float. You can afford to float if you don't get your return as quickly as you would expect.
Right. During normal times, it's not so long,
Right.
but yeah. Yeah. Some people waited a crazy long time.
Right. All right. So those are tools for earning points. I think that those are the biggest ones. Now, neither one of us mentioned category bonuses. Greg briefly glanced on it, but I think it's worth mentioning that we do have the category bonus information for all the cards on our best offers page, and we have the best category bonuses page. And I'll include a link to that in the show notes, along with links for everything else that we've mentioned a website for during the course of this conversation. I always put those notes in the show note, or rather those links in the show notes, so you can easily find them. But I use obviously category bonuses all the time. We're not talking about that here. We're talking about tools we use for earning these points. And obviously the majority of points that most people earn are going to be via welcome bonuses. The last thing though that I want to mention here that I think is worth mention of its own is referral bonuses, because Amex multi-referrals are a great tool for earning extra points if you're in a multiplayer household. This is something that maybe doesn't fit with the other tools in the sense that it's not like a website exactly. But if you have an Amex card, keep in mind that if you have someone else playing the game in your household, a husband, a wife, a significant other, brother, a sister, a family member, that you can refer them and earn a nice bonus. And with Amex cards in particular, I mentioned that because let's say you have an Amex Platinum card and it says that you'll get 25,000 points when you refer a friend. You can share your link with your friend and they can see other cards with a referral bonus. Maybe your friend wants to open the no-fee Hilton card, the Hilton Honors card that has no annual fee. Well, they can use the link that you give them from your Platinum card and look at all the cards with a referral offer, and they can open a Hilton card of whatever sort it is, the Hilton no fee card if they want, and you'll get your 25,000 membership rewards points if they're approved. So this can be a great way to pick up extra points if your significant other is going to apply for a card. Also, if you're somebody who's in that pop-up prison, for what we talked about earlier, where you're not able to earn the welcome bonus on a card, you may still want the card for a variety of reasons. And if your significant other or somebody else refers you, they'll still get the referral bonus. So that can be a way of still earning some points, even in a situation where you're not eligible for the welcome bonus. So Amex multi-referrals in particular are a tool I certainly use.
Yeah, that's a great point. All right. So as we start talking about spending points, we're going to talk first about finding award flights, and then we'll talk about hotels, and then miscellaneous other stuff. For award flights, funny thing is, as I thought about like what do I actually turn to the most outside of things like airline websites, like I'm on United.com to search for what awards are available to book through United, or American AA.com or Delta, those things, but. I'm on those a lot, but what other site do I use most? They're not tools that are actually built for finding awards. So like one of the ones I use the most, I probably open almost every day when I'm doing anything remotely like trip planning, is flight connections. So it lets me easily visualize what are all the flights that go from any given airport to anywhere else, and filter to within an alliance. So if I know I'm booking with a certain type of miles, so I can book any Star Alliance flight. I want to see what's available, and it shows me all the different flights from that airport and where they go, and so I could look at connecting airports and everything. Tell me the distance of the flights if that matters. If I'm trying to do distance-based awards, you can add them up and things like that. So it's not It has really very little to do with booking awards, but I find myself turning to it again and again.
Well, because you can figure out who serves what airport. And so like, if you put in, for instance, Doha, and you look at all of the airlines that serve Doha, you will at a glance know that if there's a Doha to Frankfurt flight, that's either going to be operated by Qatar or Lufthansa or both. So it helps you narrow down visually. If you're familiar with the alliances and the carrier hubs, it helps you very quickly visually narrow down what your flight options might be in between any two particular airports. So yeah, I find it very helpful also, because there are times where I'll wonder, okay, well, where does Qatar serve in Asia? I don't remember which airports they serve. So let me search from Doha, and it's going to show me everywhere they fly from Doha, which is going to be it. Like, those are the places you can get to with them in Asia. So I use it all the time for searching where an airline flies to. Now, I also use the Wikipedia page for airlines, or rather airports. Sometimes I'll search an airport code or airport name and look at the Wikipedia page, because there's a section for airlines and destinations, so I can see which airlines serve it and which destinations. But what I like about Flight Connections is that it's so visual, so it just takes a quick second.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right. Very similarly, Google Flights I use all the time. Whenever I'm looking at award bookings, I also look at paid flights, and Google Flights is my go-to for that. Because if I'm struggling to find, for example, business class awards to wherever, I want to know, well, wait a minute, are there cheap business class cash tickets? And then I might think about doing things like using my business platinum to book the flight with points, and I'd get a 30% rebate, and
35%.
it could work out 35%. That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Rebate that would work out to very good value for my points. But I also just use it to, even if my heart is set on booking awards, to figure out exactly, how many flights are going, of what time are they leaving? Is this going to work for my schedule? Oh, look, I didn't realize that United flew that route, so I'm gonna check for United award flight that I might not have thought to look for.
Yep, absolutely. Certainly, I use Google Flights a lot. Also, when I'm kind of destination open, because you wrote a post years ago about how to find great business class deals with Google Flights, because it's really flexible. For instance, you could search from your home airport in the U.S. to Europe or to Asia. So that is helpful, I think, for sometimes finding, oh, well, wow, there's a deal here that I wouldn't have considered or didn't think of, or maybe that actually flies through the city I really want to go to, and there's a hidden city ticket opportunity, or lots of different things like that. So Google Flights certainly very useful for that. Now, you mentioned United.com and American and Delta, and you kind of glanced over the fact that you use those, but I think it's worth a quick mention anyway to say the reason why, and I'm going to add something else. So, for instance, you said you use United, and I can read your mind on that one. I know that you use United.com often because it's a great tool for searching for Star Alliance availability. They have a calendar, so it's pretty easy to sort and filter and say, okay, I want business class awards nonstop, and see a calendar view that I think is relatively accurate these days. There were times in the past, I know, where the calendar wasn't perfectly accurate, but I think it's pretty accurate these days. So you can look at the calendar and see, oh, there are business class awards this week, but not that week. So it's a very quick reference tool for Star Alliance availability that's pretty reliable. It's a little bit of a pain to sort the results. So you got to use the filter and sort them by price. And so it's a little bit hard, but it's the easiest probably of the various Star Alliance tools. Now, that said, I use aircanada.com more often. Let me back up. I use Air Canada more often when I have about the dates that I know I want to travel. So with United, it's particularly useful if you're like, oh, I'm just looking for availability anytime this year. I don't really care when. But if you're like, oh, I'm probably going to travel this one particular week, I'll use aircanada.com. They don't have a good calendar tool. That's why I wouldn't be as excited about using them for Star Alliance availability with a lot of flexibility. But the reason I like to use Air Canada is because they have so many partners. So they've got all the Star Alliance partners, plus they've got a bunch more. So if I only search United, I'll miss out on a lot of things that could be booked with Air Canada miles, and Air Canada is transfer partners with Amex and Chase, Capital One, Built, I believe. So quite a few different programs. So very easy to access Air Canada miles. And then also they show Etihad availability since they're partners with Etihad. Right. And I'll know that those flights I could probably book with my American Airlines miles. So it's kind of a one-stop shop of sorts. Now, it's not the best one-stop shop out there, and we'll talk about a couple of those in a second, but I do use Air Canada quite a bit.
Yeah, no, that's a great one. And I really do need to start getting used to using it more often. And with the other ones, with the other big ones like American Airlines and Delta, I mean, I turn to those more for domestic flights. Like, so,
that makes sense.
You're not going to find too many Delta flights available to partners, but on delta.com, their own flights are sometimes very reasonably priced. So you can go that way. And American, same thing. They often have much better deals for their own flights than you can get by booking through partner miles. And so actually with American, that's true for international or domestic as well. So they're both worth using. American has some partners that are worth looking at, but and they do have a calendar, but it's flaky, like whether or not it's going to show you the award space or show you more award space than it actually exists seems to vary from almost day to day.
Yeah, and that makes it really annoying and difficult to recommend. I use it a lot because it's fast, like the results come up pretty quickly, but I kind of question why I do, because like you said, it's not really reliable, and it's not like it's unreliable in the same way all the time. So you're going to miss awards that are available, or you're going to think things are available that aren't. It's such a pain.
Well, I think the reason we turned to it is because you could see a month at a time results that you question, as opposed to looking at them like a few days at a time.
Exactly. And every now and then you'll find something that really is available. So I mean, it's not that it's quite as bad as we're making it sound. There are certainly times when it's useful, and I've used it a lot to great success. But it's annoying. It's not going to be your best option. It's like, if you really want to find something, you're going to have to go to a backup anyway to make sure that the availability is there. So I don't know why I waste the time going to AA.com to begin with, when I could instead go to a tool like Point.me or AwardLogic. And those are two that I know we use a lot, and you've written about them. So, what do you think, pluses, minuses, each of those tools, and why do you use them so much?
Yeah, well, coming off the heels of talking about American Airlines giving false results, I mean, PointMe prides itself in making sure it doesn't show phantom space, and so it really is intended to show the real awards that are really out there, and it searches across a lot of different programs, and it's super easy to use. Like, so the idea is you could just say, I want to fly from Detroit to Paris. I want to fly business class for 2 people, and these are the dates I want to go. Tell me what's there, and it'll do what you asked. Okay. It takes a couple minutes for the results to fully populate, and it doesn't give you a range of dates. So you have to, if you want to check the day before and the day after and the day after that, you've got to do separate searches for each of those. So that's the thing I find the most tedious about PointMe, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is a somewhat tedious point, but I use the tool a lot, in part because we do have a relationship with PointMe, so that's part of the reason that I use them. But also because it has saved me miles on many occasions. And what I mean by that is, there are lots of times when it finds award booking options that I totally forgot about. I've talked, I know, at least once or twice before about how I totally forgot that you can book Copa flights. Copa is a Star Alliance airline that used to be mostly owned by United, not anymore, but they still have the old Continental logo, sort of, anyway. And I had totally forgotten that you could book those with Air France miles until I was using this tool to search for awards. And just recently I found one where I was like, you could book Aero Mexico with Avianca Life Miles. Aero Mexico's a SkyTeam airline, and they're like a competitor. How is that a thing? But it is. And I found that because I saw the result through PointMe. So I like using a tool like that. Now, AwardLogic would probably find at least some of those things too. I mean, you found situations where AwardLogic was quite good also, right?
Yeah, I've had good luck with AwardLogic. I paired them up, like I pitted the 2 tools against each other to try to find certain awards, and I found they were both very good. There were things I preferred about each one separately. So what I love about AwardLogic is it lets you search 3 days at a time. So you can say this date plus up to 2 days following that date. So 3 total days at a time. And what I really appreciate is you can see in the results all 3 of those days in one display. So it'll sort, if you ask it to sort by the fewest points, that's what'll show up on top, regardless of which day the results came from. And that's not something that most tools can do. So even a tool like Expert Flyer that'll let you do a week at a time, you have to, change your tabs to see, to find out which day has award availability. But this one, it's all on the same screen if you want it to be. But one thing that Point Me does much better, it seems like a small thing, but when you're looking for premium cabin awards, you tell Point Me, I want business or first class. With Award Logic, you say I want business class, or you say I want first class, and that can be problematic for a couple reasons. One, even when looking for international awards, sometimes you're going to strike out looking for business class, but maybe there is a first class award that's not too much more expensive, and you'd rather have that. Point Me will find that. The other thing, and this has hit me a number of times domestically, and I can't remember which is which, but it's something like United first class or American first class only shows up if in Award Logic, if you pick first class, whereas Delta's first class only shows up if you pick business class. And I probably have it exactly reversed what the right way is, but it doesn't matter. The point is you have to do the search twice just for the hopes of finding what you're looking for. And so that kills a lot of the value of the 3-day search window.
Right. Yeah, that's true. And I think that a key point worth making here is that I mentioned before that one of the things I like about some of the tools that we're talking about is how much time they save me. And I tell you what, in the beginning, when Point Me first launched and before that, tools that existed before that, I thought that the prices were such that it wouldn't make a lot of sense for most people. If you're like a blogger or a word booker or something, maybe it would, but I wasn't convinced that paying the monthly cost month after month or the annual cost would make sense for most people. However, I've gotten so used to using these tools now that they've saved me so much time that it's hard for me to imagine life without them, because I could run all of these searches individually. I know how to search all the various airline websites and which ones to search for which availability, but A, I would miss some things like I've talked about just a second ago, and B, it just takes so much longer because some of them you have to log into, or you may have to do 2-factor authentication to log in and search this site or that site and make sure you search this way or call that person. So I find it very, very easy to deal with and saves me tons of time.
Yeah. No, that's great. And of course, what's even greater is now if you have a Built membership, in which you can sign up for Built for free. I'm not talking about the Built credit card. That's not required, but just you sign up for Built, you have it set up an account. You can now use Point Me for free. And it's limited to searching the transfer partners that Built has, but they have such a good collection of transfer partners. I can't imagine you're missing hardly anything there.
A little tiny bit, but yeah, not very much. It was something I can't remember. Well, you'd miss out on Avianca, for instance, because that's not one of their partners. Okay. And Avianca is one that I use quite a bit. So that's one that's missing. But like you said, for most people, for most use cases, it's great. And also, if you're familiar with alliances, well, they're searching United and Air Canada Aeroplan. So if you're familiar with alliances, you'll know, oh, if this shows up via United and Aeroplan, it would show up via Life Miles too. Maybe I had to check the price there and see if it's any less. So I think it meets tons and tons of needs. So if you aren't yet a Built Rewards member, and again, like Greg said, we're not talking about the credit card, the free rewards program, the rent rewards program that anybody can join. It's worth signing up for the app, taking advantage of their rent day promos where they give away some free points because, hey, why not? It's free points, and eventually be able to transfer those to Hyatt or wherever it is you want to transfer them. So it's worth participating for those things. And then, yeah, being able to use basically a free version of Point Me is, fantastic deal. So, all right. So we use those tools. Both of us use them quite a bit. I use Point Me like daily. That's probably the thing I use the most in terms of like actually going to it. But they're not the only, things out there. Seats.Aero, you wrote about recently. Talk to us about that.
Yeah. So this is this like nerdy tool that is built clearly by a travel hacker who, wanted to be able to find the best like first class and business class award flights to wherever. And so he created this tool that basically just constantly is scanning for the next couple months. So this is not for searching for awards for next year or even for later this year. This is for there's some like unicorn award that is hardly ever available, and you want to just jump on it as soon as you see it. So your eye's been on, I want to try the new I don't know, Air France business class just came out, or or as soon as Lufthansa finally brings out their new first class, I want to try it right away. Those kind of things. This will let you easily see, like in seconds, are any of these flights that you're interested in available on any of the routes that this tool checks, and it checks a lot of routes, and it certainly is going to check, like, for those high demand ones that the travel hackers that built this care about, would be ones like all the Lufthansa routes from North America. So they're all going to be in there, for example. And so it's one of those tools. It's actually free to use most of its functionality, and it's lightning fast, because all it's doing is showing you and letting you filter data it's already collected. It's collecting more data all the time, but behind the scenes, and you could just see, see at an instant, 10 hours ago, this first class flight that I was hoping to do was available on April 10th or something. So am I free April 10th? Yes. Okay. I'm going to book it. That's the type of thing, and the type of person who would do that would love this tool. And another thing that I found already that's cool about the tool is, even if you're not ready to travel yet, you might get ideas for routes that are likely to have award availability. So you'll see things like, you'll see patterns. Like if you're looking at what first class flights are available on, I don't know, ANA, let's say, and you see, look, there's several that are departing from this particular city in the US, then okay, I'm gonna now do a search the time I really want to go to see if it's available. And in fact, that's how I got not the first class. That's how I got the business class flight from San Francisco to Tokyo. How I discovered that it was available was because I was playing around with Seats.Aero, and I saw that route was often available. And so booked that. So anyway.
Nice. So very good tool there. Now, Expert Flyer is one that I used a little bit and I kind of gave up on. It's not the most user-friendly tool out there, but it's a very powerful tool for advanced users. Do you have anything you can share about Expert Flyer and your experiences using it? Because like I said, I don't use it all that much. I used it a little bit here and there.
It's a great tool if you are stuck on, you want to fly a specific airline and a specific route. It'll let you search for award availability. It'll let you search for upgrade space. So if you have like elite status that gives you upgrade certificates or something, there's very few ways of doing that otherwise with some programs. It'll let you set alerts, so you get emails or texts when award space opens up or upgrade space opens up. So it's a very powerful tool, but only for the airlines it supports. It's a lot of airlines, but it's only those. And it's not like Point Me or Award Logic. Like, so Point Me and Award Logic, you say, I want to go from here to there, tell me what's available, and it'll search like all the airlines. This is, with Expert Flyer, it's like, I want to go from here to there flying Lufthansa. Okay, now tell me if there's any business or first class space available, and I'll tell you that.
Right. So it's a bit slower of a slog if you were to use that. However, like Greg said, there are some additional bells and whistles and things you can search for. And you can see, for instance, how many different seats are still available for sale in different fare classes, which might give you an idea as to whether or not it's likely for awards to open up as you get closer to departure, or upgrade space to open. Obviously, you can see the upgrade space. So if you have elite status with a particular airline, then it can be very useful. I used Expert Flyer a lot when planning our GUC trip a couple of years ago with Delta Global Upgrade Certificates, though, of course, since Delta's changed those global upgrade certificates, they may be less useful, but this would still be a good tool potentially. But nowadays you can see online also on Delta's website, if you have those certificates, I think you can see the availability to apply them.
You can see it for Delta itself,
but not for its partners. Okay, so Expert Flyer is still useful for that. All right, so lots of different things for finding awards. Those were award flights. How about award nights? When you want to find award nights, what do you use the most?
Yeah, so to be honest, I usually just use the hotel chains websites. I go to Marriott.com if I'm looking for a Marriott stay. I go to Hyatt.com for Hyatt, and so on.
No,
Go ahead.
well, maybe you said that, and I use the websites a lot. I don't know, maybe you just meant that in general, but I tend to use their apps more often. There's not a particular reason why. I just find them to be faster. So I find it to be a lot
Okay.
faster to pull up the app. I don't know if everybody agrees with that, but that's that my style. I have all the hotel apps in a single folder on the home screen on my phone, and I'm frequently just taking a look at places where I'm interested in going and seeing if there's availability.
Yeah. Yeah. So there is a new tool coming out that will search across all of the chains for the dates for the city and dates you want. I don't I haven't had a chance to try it out yet, and it is a paid service, I believe. So that's not something that makes my list yet. Um, the other thing that I do is so if I'm looking like I'm going to a city, I'm going to Auckland, New Zealand, I'm going to wherever, Sydney, Australia. I like to use a tool called Award Mapper. Now, Award Mapper, it was built like eons ago, and it was intended to let you see all the hotels that were bookable with points in a city, for example, but also like how many points they cost, and it used what category hotel they were. That was back when all the hotel chains had categories, had award charts, and now most don't. But it still keeps a feed for some of these chains of like what hotels exist, for what IHG hotels exist, what Marriott hotels exist in these cities. So I can at a glance say, okay, I know I want to be in the city. I know I want to be near this place. What chain hotels are there? So then I know, okay, I'm going to jump on IHG or Marriott's website, for example, to search for actual prices.
I didn't even realize that there was still updated data there. So that's one I haven't used in years. I used to use it also, but I didn't realize they
Unfortunately, they don't publish information about which ones are updated and how often. So it's a bit of a, it's helpful to have an idea of what's out there, but it's definitely not everything that's out there. So
yeah,
you gotta just be aware of that.
Yep, that's a good point. Okay.
And finally, there's that new hotel tool, Stay with Points, that honestly, I haven't used it a lot yet, but it seems like it'll be really good for the situations where you're trying to book a hotel that has limited award availability. So you're trying to book one of those hotels in the Maldives that's always hardly ever has base rooms available that can be booked with a reasonable number of points. Then this is a great way of both seeing when are there rooms available, and also setting alerts, so you'll be alerted when they open up.
All I really want here is a point me award logic for hotels. Like I want one tool where I can search and see all the various chain properties and how much they cost. So if you're listening out there and you're a developer, that would be terrific. And then if you really want to make me happy, toss in the fine hotels and resorts pricing also, so I don't have to like go to Amex and look that up. That'd be wonderful. So if you're listening and you want to develop a tool, there's a space for that. I feel like that'd be super helpful.
Yeah. You know what kills me is that tool used to exist. I used to use that tool. I don't remember what it was called, but it went out of business, or it sold or something. I don't know what happened, but it did exactly what you said. It not only showed the point prices and paid prices of the hotels in whatever city you're looking at, but it showed which ones belong to Fine Hotels Resorts, which ones belong to all those other type of programs. Virtuoso. And it told you what you would get, what kind of benefit you'd get with those things. And so I found it so fantastic, and then it disappeared.
So yeah. That's too bad. That's because that would be super helpful. There's so often that if I don't remember to check all of the various apps, I might miss a property in a place where I didn't expect to find one. So again, I have all the hotel apps in one single folder, and so I have to just go one at a time through each one of them, and that takes me a while, and I'm used to it. But I was used to searching all the airline websites, and Point Me spoiled me with making me used to just one visit to search for stuff. So I'd love that for hotels. Anyway, we don't
Yeah,
have that,
yeah,
so we do a bunch of other stuff for our hotel stuff. And I search a lot. I often say this, but when I'm standing in line somewhere, I don't really like to scroll social media. I do sometimes, but I try not to for the most part. I am often, if I'm standing in line at the grocery store to check out or something, I'm often pulling up the hotel apps and looking for award nights. That's my thing. That's what I do to kill time. I look for award nights. So, that's my tip there, which isn't going to be helpful to anybody who doesn't do that. So car rentals, let's talk about car rentals quickly, because those are the bane of my existence lately. Cars have just gotten so expensive. And so
yeah.
this is kind of a pain. What do you do?
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're lucky enough to work for a company or have a spouse that works for a company like I do that has good deals for rental cars, then that's great. I've been doing really well with Enterprise and National thanks to my wife's job. And anytime those don't that doesn't result in great rates, which sometimes happens in some foreign countries, but it's almost a lock here in the US. Then Auto Slash is my go-to every time.
It has been for me for a long time. And then I wrote a post this week, and I spent a bunch of time gathering data because I booked a bunch of cars for like all my trips for the rest of the year. And I was actually surprised. Now, I've long loved Auto Slash and very often have found it to produce the best results and the best prices. But I was surprised, particularly overseas, at how often Kayak returned results that were a little bit better than what I found through Auto
Wow.
Slash. Now, I imagine
Interesting.
that if I booked those and then tracked the rentals through Auto Slash, that I would probably still end up getting the best price using Auto Slash. But yes, interesting. I was very surprised at the rate with which Kayak would beat them, and in some cases by a decent margin. So I think Kayak is a tool I should be using more often and didn't realize for car rentals. And now that I mention it, like I totally forgot about that. And in fact, when I first started writing the post, I wasn't even looking at Kayak. I was just looking at Expedia to get one example of online travel agencies, thinking that that was good
Yeah.
enough. And then I hit a city where Expedia came up with no cars. And I was like, what do you mean no cars? I found results through Auto Slash. There's major car rental companies there. And so I ended up at Kayak, and I was like, oh, wow, these prices are better than I expected. And so and then it triggered a memory that, yeah, when we did our 3 cards, 3 continents competition, I got the best deal on one of the car rentals I did through Kayak, through some website I'd
Yeah.
never heard of before, rather than through Auto Slash in that case. So,
Oh, that's
so
that's so interesting. Yeah, you know what? I used to use Kayak almost exclusively for almost all the travel planning for flights and everything, and I loved it. And I haven't used it for pretty much anything except what I have done with car rentals is I usually run my search really quickly just to see what the going rate is, and then I make sure that when I use Auto Slash or corporate code that it comes out significantly better than that. And in my experience, it has, but I haven't pushed the boundaries. I guess I haven't used it, beyond the first blush like that.
I found it to make more sense generally on foreign rentals. It wasn't, for the most part, rentals within the United States where Kayak was showing better deals. It was mostly in different places. I always say different places, foreign places where that was the case. And let me be clear, there were instances where Auto Slash produced the best results still, and it's still
Mm-hmm.
kind of my go-to for searching for prices, and then again tracking rentals too once I've already booked, so that if the price goes down, they'll find that. But the corporate codes, like you said, are very hard to beat for rentals within the United States. So don't only think about your company, but also think about organizations you may belong to, alumni associations. There's lots of different things out there that you might belong to that might qualify you for some sort of a better deal. So those types of codes can be worth checking on anyway, to see where you can save money. Now, one thing on car rentals is, man, if you're a parent, gosh, the cost of renting a car seat is just ridiculous. And
Is that
if you
right?
got a good hack for that, let me know. And if your hack is to carry 2 car seats through the airport with you, I don't want to hear from you. I need to hear from somebody that's got a hack for not having to bring the car seats with me, but also not spending like $150 on renting car seats or something each time we need to do it. So I think the AAA code is supposed to take off. I think you're supposed to get a free car rental or a free car seat with the AAA code, or at least I thought so, but I didn't find that to be the case in the searches I did. So anyway,
Can you
request
just strap your kids into the car seats really well and then check them as bags?
I maybe in some places might have to. So yeah, there you go. There's that, and that's one problem I run into with AutoSlash is that there's no way to include that. So I don't know how much it's going to cost with all the different companies. So then I still have to go and look that up separately, and that's kind of annoying. But so AutoSlash, if you're listening, add the ability to add car seats to the reservation. That'd be fantastic. All right. So that's that. Shopping deals. And this kind of ties in a little bit because we were just talking about car rentals. And the whole reason I got into the car rental thing this week was because I've had this targeted Capital One shopping deal. And I know I'm kind of jumping out of order based on our notes before we started, but it goes in with the whole car rental thing. And that is I've had this targeted Capital One shopping offer for 30% back on Hertz. And so 30% back is pretty significant. And that made Hertz the best deal for a lot of my upcoming rentals. I was really searching for number 2 in most cases to write the post in terms of what was the second best deal if I didn't have the 30% targeted offer. So we've talked a lot about Capital One shopping. You don't need a Capital One credit card in order to use Capital One shopping. So it is something that you're going to have to search individually, which is going to contrast with a tool we'll talk about next, where you'll have to go to the Capital One shopping website and preferably in the browser where you have the extension installed, and you have to check not only up at the top in the search box, but you got to scroll down to the bottom to where the targeted offers are, and select the stores from the list and the offers for you at the bottom. Because for instance, Hertz at the top of my Capital One shopping page right now shows 5% back. If you scroll down to the bottom of the page, it shows 15% back. But if you look at the email they sent me recently, it says 30% back. And when you click through that, it gives you the little button from the extension to activate the 30% back. So Capital One shopping involves some manual work, some manual labor, but the payouts can be really worthwhile. Now, before they started getting into all their craziness, though, the tool that both of us, I think, have used most often for finding shopping deals is probably Cashback Monitor, right?
For sure. Yeah. Cashback Monitor does a fantastic job of looking across all the shopping portals, all the portals where you could get rewards for doing the same shopping you do anyway. And there's hundreds of these sites that do that. So knowing which one to go to is really tough, especially since they change their payouts like almost daily. So Cashback Monitor monitors all of those portals. And even though it's called Cashback Monitor, it also monitors airline mile portals and hotel point portals and everything else. And years ago, I compared it to a number of other tools that profess to do the same thing. And it was just so much better than the other tools that from then on, I've always been using Cashback Monitor. So that's the place to go to find out how you're going to get the best non-targeted portal deal. Capital One shopping is right now the place to go to get targeted for ridiculous deals like 30% back at some places. So yeah. All right. Let's try to wrap this up quickly now. The last thing I'll say is there's a number of tools that are critical for me in trip planning in general. Google Maps, Google Flights, Google Hotels.
So Google's got you, Craig.
Google's got me. Totally on the other side of things, I find blog reviews in the miles and point space really helpful because I often, when I'm booking a flight, like a special type of flight or a known like points type of hotel, I want to know not just is this good? I can tell that from the review sites, but I want to know what am I going to get with the level of elite status that I have?
Breakfast? What's for breakfast?
And you're not going to find that exactly. You're not going to find that on most sites, but on the blog reviews, that's where we care about that. Right. So that's why we write about that type of thing. And finally, I use TripIt like crazy. So every single trip, you get email confirmations when you've booked a flight or when you've booked a hotel or whatever, an activity even. And I just forward all of that to TripIt. It puts it all in a nice agenda form for me. Makes it easy to see when there's problems. So the trip that Nick booked for us with my global upgrade certificates, an early round of it had us, I think, departing Dubai before we got there or something like that. And it wasn't obvious until I saw it all in the TripIt itinerary and was like,
That's not going to work.
There's a little problem.
Right.
So,
yeah.
Love it.
Yeah. Very useful for that. Good. Yeah. I used to use it all the time and then I stopped using it. And I really probably should get back in the habit. Although I do find that a Ward wallet is useful for a lot of the same functionality in the sense that, at least for the programs that it tracks, it'll automatically import your travel plans. So I find it to be useful for that. It did remind me just the other day about an upcoming flight I have that I still need to cancel right now. So now that it's top of mind, when we get done with this, I'm gonna make sure I cancel that flight. So yeah, those are all the tools we use. Not all the tools. Those are the tools we use the most often. There are additional tools that we use. Those are the ones we use most of the time for most of the stuff we do in travel hacking. Now, we do lots and lots of stuff, so there are other things we use now and then. Those are the ones that should be in your toolkit, I think, if you're listening to this, because I think they're all tools that are very helpful.
All right. Now I'm going to put you on the spot now, Nick. So of all the tools, now, not like websites like ours or blog posts or anything like that, but tools that could legitimately called like an application or a app. If you could only have one of these, just one, which one would you keep?
I would like to think that this is a difficult question to answer, but for me, it's really not. I think Point Me is the one. I know a Ward wallet probably should be the one because that does reduce a lot of stress from my life, and I take it for granted because I don't actually look at it for something specific each day. But Point Me, it indulges my desire to constantly search for awards and find without having to search 18 different sites. So I spend much less time like wasted on searching this site and that site and the other site. Whereas I'll constantly be thinking of awards and like, oh, I wonder if there's availability on this or that or blah, blah. And I can just do one click, let that run in the background while I'm doing something else. So it doesn't take away as much productivity. So I think Point Me would be my pick if I had to pick one. What about you?
I don't know. I'm okay putting you on the spot, but
but you don't have just one. It's hard to pick.
I'm just very thankful that I can use them all.
Right. Who has to pick? Who has to pick? Well, this week's question of the week is kind of related to the stuff we've been talking about. So if you're relatively new and your head is spinning a little bit, don't feel bad. You can go back and listen to all this again, and there's going to be links to all this stuff in the show notes. But you may enjoy this question if you're relatively new. And I thought it fit in really well with the tools we use for booking awards. So Jack wrote an email in and said, I'm new to booking international flights via points. I did so for the first time thanks to something, something you read with us. Said transferred Amex points to Aeroplan. And Jack booked a flight on TAP Air Portugal via the Air Canada website. He wasn't able to select seats on TAP via the Air Canada website. He had to create a TAP Air Portugal account to pull up the reservation on the TAP Air Portugal website with the TAP Air Portugal record locator, etc. But he was able to do that. The question he says, a question I have, and probably other newbies like me, is whether in these types of situations where you're using one carrier's points but flying on another's metal, do you always check in for the flight through the actual carrier you're flying, or does it vary? So when it comes to actually traveling on this Air Canada ticket, and you booked it through Air Canada, but you're flying on TAP Air Portugal, how do you check in?
I check in through the TAP Air Portugal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
100%.
I was trying to think. The question was saying, is it always the case?
Yeah.
And I was trying to think. I think there's some cases with tight partnerships where you might be able to check in, through the one you book through, but usually it's the operating carrier.
I can't think of a situation where I've ever checked in through a website other than the operating carrier. So that was I had a hesitation with that too when I saw the question. I was like, always, the word always. He bolded the word always and underlined the word always. So I felt like I was backed in the corner to make a commitment with it. But I can't think of a situation where I've ever checked in for a partner booked award with anything other than the operating carrier's website. So
well, how about when you're flying multiple segments, and the initial airline that you check in with, like, will sometimes print you boarding passes for the whole way through. So for example, if you have
I see
a
what you're saying.
Delta ticket that includes like a KLM segment at the end,
Okay.
I think when you go to check in, I think it'll give you boarding passes for the whole thing.
That's true. That's true.
If I'm remembering
No,
right.
you're absolutely right. Sometimes that does happen. Okay, I should specify then. I always check in with the airline that is operating the first segment on the award. That's
There you go.
So that you're right. That's a
Yeah.
good point, because there are certainly times where you're going to have multiple partners on a single award, and I always check in through that first airline first. Now, if you're booking a complicated multi-segment itinerary like the one I did for our 3 cards, 3 continents challenge, where I had these long 24-hour layovers, then I had to each time check in with the airline operating that next segment.
Yeah.
So that, it does get a little complicated, I guess.
And that was same too for my round the world ticket. At each place I checked in with whatever the next operating carrier was. Sometimes we just waited till we got to the airport and just checked in at the kiosk, and that was fine.
That's a good question. Is there any advantage, really, especially if you're on an international business or first class award? Is there any advantage to checking in online?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Because you got to stop at the counter, or the check-in counter, no matter what, right? Whether or not you're checking bags, if you're on an international itinerary, you're going to have to show your passport at the check-in counter. I don't think you. No,
I don't know. I'm trying to remember, because I feel like at least hopping around Europe, I don't think you have
may be
to.
True. Maybe that's true.
So
yeah,
it might depend on what.
That might be true.
Yeah, what type of international flight it is.
Okay, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Long haul international, I've like stopped checking in online. I used to always check in online ahead of time, and for some reason feel like I needed to do that. But then I get to the airport, and now I'm in the case where I'm always checking bags. So that's part of the reason I know I'm going to have to go to the check-in counter anyway. But yeah, like I'm going to go through the priority line anyway. I got to go see the person at the check-in counter no matter what. There really isn't, I don't think, much advantage. If there is one that I'm not knowing about, let me know in the comments of the show, whether it's, wherever you're listening to this or on the website. Let me know what the advantage is to even bothering to check in ahead of time. All right.
Yeah.
So
one cool thing when I was flying within New Zealand, I'm so used to showing my ID whenever I go to an airport, and you don't
weird.
like all you do is you do go through security, so they check, and make sure that you don't have too many liquids or whatever it is they're checking, but it's just so weird to I was all ready to take out my passport. Never had to.
No, I feel like, maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like at the Nelson airport, I don't even remember airport security. I remember just like walking in and being like, oh, wow, the gates are just there. It's so weird. So yeah, I don't know, a different experience, certainly in some different places, but hopefully that helps Jack and any newbies out there. It's very easy. Really, it's much easier than it sounds. It seems intimidating when you're like, oh, booking a partner award for the first time. In reality, it's very easy once you do it once. So best of luck to you, Jack. I'm sure it'll seem super simple after you've done it. All right, that brings us to the end of a long show today. So if you're the person that likes to mow the lawn, hopefully you had sunny weather to be able to do that. If you live where I live, there's no lawn mowing. So I don't know what you've been doing for the last hour and a half, but I'm glad you've been here with us. And if you'd like to get more of our information in your inbox each day or each week, you want to go to frequentmiler.com/subscribe to join our email list. Follow us on all the various social media. Wherever you're listening to this show, please give us a like, a thumbs up, leave us some feedback, subscribe, enable notifications. All of those things help out our channels. So thank you very much for all of that. If you got questions, comments, things you'd like to be considered for a future question of the week segment or feedback, a giant mailbag segment, you want to send that to?
Send it to mailbag@frequentmiler.com. Bye, everybody.